जमालो हुस्ने कुरआन नूरे जाने हर मुसलमान है कमर है चांद औरों का हमारा चांद कुरआन है.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This episode is related to the early development of Islamic calligraphy during Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, time, and mentioned under some Qur'anic verses revealed during that time, mentioning about kalam as well. So there are few verses, but two particularly one mention about pen is Surah Alaq, Surah Al-Qalam as well. So it is mentioned under Surah Alaq that read, and your Lord is the most generous who taught by the pen. And the second one is the Surah Qalam, where it is mentioned is known by the pen and what everyone writes. Quranic history actually talk about Qalam as well. I would like during this segment show you one of the discovery found a Hazrat Hafsa bint Umar Raziyallahu anha's fragment of piece, which is actually saved in Topkapi Museum, which is compiled during Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam time as well. And Hazrat Hafsa Raziyallahu anha, who was the daughter of Hazrat Umar, the second caliph in Islamic world. So this Quran, which is safe in Topkapi, you can see actually fragment over there. Later that the third caliph, Hazrat Usman Raziyallahu anhu, set up a committee to compile and standardize the Quran. One copy was kept in Medina and other were sent to Kufa, Basra, Damascus and Makkah. The fragment which I'm showing you, this is the Quran, which is again actually preserved in Topkapi Museum in Istanbul. But this history actually show you that how the Quran was being written from the start and what kind of calligraphy was being used at that time. And later stage it was converted into Kufic script and then into a Nask and then Sulas, and so it became 99% of the Qurans then showing in the world in Khatena script. In today's class, we will be learning how to make traditional Islamic marbling or Ebru. Marbling is a method of surface design which can produce patterns similar to smooth marble or other kind of stones on any sort of observance, surface or materials. There are few ingredients and tools that you will need for our lesson today. For the water-based solution that we will be using today, you will need warm water, 1 liter, Oxgall solutions, 1¼ teaspoons for the color to be vibrant, and carrageenan powder. All these measurements are enough for at least one batch of marbling solution. When you have all of the ingredients, you would put them all in a blender. This is because we want to mix the ingredient, but also we want it to be smooth as well. For the coloring that we are going to use to transfer a pattern onto the surface, we will use acrylic paint, which will be diluted in water with a ratio of 2 to 1 of acrylic paint to the water. When mixing the paint and water, you can use any sort of paint brush. We recommend a hard bristle one. You need to make sure that all the clumps of paint has dissolved properly. When you have mixed all your desired color, you are nearly ready for start our marbling session. Different tools that are used when creating more unique designs can differ the outcome. There is a comb, which is most common in Turkish Hebrew, which create a design like this. There is a feather method made using a fine pin like this. A similar design is the cross hash feather design, made the same way using a pin but into different directions. And then there is a throw design, which is when you have no tools after applying the paints to the solution. So the main reason actually to using Hebrew or marbling paper to make the binding of the Quran. So you can see the binding has been used for a very old Quran. So you can see the old Quran and it's got the binded with marbling paper. You can see a latest binding as well, book binding, which has been used this marbling paper on both sides. And marbling paper nowadays can be used in modern art as well. This is called Japanese marbling. Only white and black color has been used. And you can see actually when you create your artwork, you can make the borders with marbling paper as well. Or sometimes you make geometrical art using the marbling paper as well.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today in this segment we'll be covering the different historical mediums and the different artifacts that we have in our collection. These will span over various ranges of styles of calligraphy as well as different Islamic art forms such as the biomorphic art form and Islamic illumination. And one of these pieces that we'll show now, it's a very square and linear style of calligraphy known as the Kufic script. This was the very early script, the Hijazi form of Kufic. And you can see that it has no linear diacritical marks, because this was how the early forms of calligraphy was written. And we still write this style as well as in an ornamental form, but it's very hard and very difficult to read. This again is in Kufic, and this is on parchment, on the animal skin. And you can see it's the same script but enlarged on a bigger scale. And as we're learning with calligraphy, there's bigger proportions, but the proportion stays the same, but it's bigger writing. And so both are the same scripts but bigger form of writing.
What's the material actually being used?
This is animal skin. So normally the skins that were used would range from goat skin, deer skin, gazelle skin, any form of skin that was fairly easy to write, easy to skin, and could last a very long time, because these were manuscripts made for the long term. Now we're going quite far away to North Africa, the Maghreb, where you can see this form of calligraphy is known as the Maghrebi script. You can see it's not linear at all. It's much more curved and much more curved and rounded form of calligraphy compared to the linear script of Kufic. This is known as the Maghrebi script. And again, you can see that it has some sort of influence from the Kufic script, but it has eliminated a lot of the linear form of writing that was seen before then.
And this is about 500 years old Quran, and full Quran in Maghrebi script.
Then we have another form of calligraphy. Now if you have a look at this is known as the Nastaliq style of calligraphy. The people who are common to the subcontinent have seen this type of calligraphy, and because it's seen a lot in and around. But you can see the ornamentation known as Islamic illumination or tahzeeb is an Iranian style, and you can see all of the colors that are used are from crushing semi-precious stones such as lapis lazuli, emeralds, rubies, and the gold that you can see is pure 23.5 karat gold. You can see the absolute immense delicacy that this has been written in. Then another form of calligraphy that many people have seen a lot is known as the Nusk style of calligraphy. Now Nusk is the most common form of calligraphy, and this is known as the most common the most common form of writing of calligraphy. These are actually, it's a book of Salawatun Nabi, the sending salutations upon the Prophet, and you can see that various visual art forms have also been used throughout the book as well. And you can see it's a full book of Salawatun Nabi and various art forms used as well. Linking back to the Nastaliq script, there was many famous calligraphers of the Nastaliq script as well. One of the most famous calligraphers who actually refined the script was known as Mir Imad. Mir Imad was one of the greatest Nastaliq calligraphers, and he refined the script. Now you can see that this is known as the Siyah Mashq. We mentioned this in one of our previous lessons as well, in which you used to blacken the page. You used to repeatedly write the same quatrains, the same form of calligraphy again and again. And then you can see the Iranian illumination, the Persian illumination done again, using crushing semi-precious stones, as well as using 23.5 karat gold. The Bahari script. Now the beauty about the Bahari script is that it was made for the Chinese converts. We now see an influx of around 20 to 25 Chinese Muslims in the Islamic world. And what happened was that during the Ghaznavid period of rule, the Ghaznavids wanted to introduce a type of script where they would invent a script that imitated the Cantonese style of calligraphy, Cantonese style of writing, but it was actually Arabic. So when the Cantonese converts came to Islam, a script was made for them and known as the Bahari script, and they could read it very easily. And a great example of this is at our annual convention, the Jalsa Salana. There was a group of Chinese Muslims who came to visit, and they could actually read the script much easier compared to the other scripts beforehand. And it shows the beauty of the script in itself, and you can see underneath there's some Persian translation and tafsir that has been done.
These are pieces from 14th century, 14th to 15th century.
And then we have older manuscripts as well. These manuscripts are, you can see, in a much more less refined style of page, but the writing is made for the more academic reader, in which there was a lot of space left for the different students and the Talimul-Qur'an, so the students of knowledge, to come and do the comments. So someone else would write the book, and the different students of knowledge would come, input their knowledge, and it would go to different students of knowledge after that, and these would pass on their knowledge as well. This is a wooden tablet, and this is from North Africa. you can see that the beginning of the Quran, the Surah Al-Fatiha, has been written, and some verses have been written as well, and you can see that the basic style of illumination has been done. Now the beauty about this piece is that in Africa we see a lot, still to the modern day, that when again the Talimul-Qur'an, the students of knowledge, the people who are becoming the memorizers of the Quran, they normally memorize by writing. They write again and again, and they used to write and they used to memorize what was written, and they used to then carve they used to wipe and sand what they had written and write again and again and again on the wooden tablets. Now the beauty of this is at the back we can see some writing as well, and what would happen is you can see some scrape marks. So what would happen is that these would be scraped again and again, and it would be verses would be written again and again until the student had been able to fully memorize those verses. And we can see an ornamental style over here. Now the beauty of this piece that we are trying to show is that you can use any mediums to do calligraphy. An individual is asking about canvas. Now regarding canvas, absolutely, there will be work on wood, you can do work on glass. Papyrus as well is a very interesting medium that can be used. This was most commonly seen during the ancient Egyptian period, because at that time they were able to find the hemp fibers that were used to actually build up the papyrus. But in the Islamic period, there was advancement in paper, as well as parchment that was used as shown in the previous pieces. But again, the calligrapher has used the parchment to do traditional Fatimid style Kufic calligraphy. Now, this Kufic calligraphy is again an influence of the very initial Hijazi style of Kufic, but then a later advancement, and that's the beauty about the Islamic scripts of calligraphy. That every script that has come with later time, they've been refined again and again, and they've become more beautiful as time has gone by. You can see on papyrus, the problem is that the ink normally spreads on papyrus. Different forms of pigments were used, but inks mainly spread. But despite this, the calligrapher has written the Asma al-Husna, the 99 attributes, the names of Allah, in the Kufic script. And another beautiful piece that we can see over here is on camel bone. Now this is an absolutely amazing piece, all hand carved, with the Ayatul Kursi written in Khat Diwani, which was the writing of the court that originated from the Ottoman period. And it's all been hand carved onto the bone with traditional floral design on the side, all into camel bone. So again, another form of traditional art, but on a very different medium that is seen. So in this segment, we've shown that there are many different mediums that you can use, and the beauty is that once you've refined your calligraphy, you can use any medium, from walls to camel bone to parchment to paper to papyrus. Any medium is possible. So I really urge that everyone will try different mediums as they advance in their calligraphic journey. So traditionally, different forms are used, such as the chiseling techniques were used, but there were different types of blades that were used as well, and rotary machinery that was used that was still handheld. They used to carve into it depending on the different type of material that was used. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today we'll be covering the letter Ain and Ghain. Now these letters, as a accomplished calligrapher, a very unworthy calligrapher, but a calligrapher is a very, very difficult letter to write. This is the most difficult, I would say, to write and master. And calligraphers spend years upon years trying to perfect this letter, but that's the beauty about Islamic calligraphy. The words of Allah are perfect, and we are imperfect vessels. We are imperfect vessels trying to reach for perfection. So now we're going to try one of the hardest letters, Ain. So initially, I'm going to do the individual letter. Now watch how I start the letter. Always just dab your qalam on the page, seeing if you have any excess ink. I'm going up. And then I've just lifted my qalam off the page. I clean the letter up using the edge of my qalam. And this letter is normally done using this initial part, using the edge of your qalam. Just in this part, it's like an eyebrow. If you look at it, it is just like an eyebrow. From there, you bring it down. Now you can imagine this as the face. Where the eyebrow is coming, now you're drawing the kind of indentation of the nose. It's good to see things visually, because then when you're writing the letter, it is much more easier. You stop just before the edge. Now I'm going to leave this and I'm going to go slightly ahead of the letter. Look, I've joined the letter now. I carry on this thickness. And now I'm just going to stop. Remember that rule we had with the ha, where we only bring it towards the line? Now the bottom part of this letter is the exact same as that. So all you have to do is master this part of the letter and the rest is the same. But for the sake of showing the rest of the letter, I will show you how it looks. Keep on bringing it down. Remember there was one part where one nukta you keep it straight. Then you curve it. Bring it up. Then you bring it towards the left hand side, just like your ha. Now let's look at the proportions of this letter. This has to be 3 dots. There's sometimes leeway for certain letters, but this letter is very strict, very stern in its proportion. It does not allow you for any leeway. I go one nukta down and that brings me to the edge. Then the general depth of it is 2 nuktas. The depth to where I bring the piece up, the end of the letter up, is 2 dots. Now remember we did that, the bottom part of the ha, it's the same proportions for the ayn. Five dots. You have a 1 dot gap over here, and this general indentation that is coming out is 1 dot. So that is your ayn as an individual letter. Now as we go along, one of the beauties of the ayn that is constantly changing. When you have it connected to the alif, is a different form, slightly different. To the untrained eye, you won't see a difference, but you as calligraphers, you'll notice that there's a very big difference. Now I'm going to draw the head of the ayn again. I'm going to do it quite quickly because everyone has seen how it has been done previously. But now look, remember this previous part was much more curved, but now watch, when it's connected to the alif, it is slightly straighter. And look, now I'm lifting my qalam off the page and I'm going straight up. Then from here, I keep it pretty much the same level. I'm not going 1 nukta out. And over here, I'm going to stop. Now, this part when you're going up to join it to the alif is slightly overlapping. And then you let it go. And this part can be obviously smoothened up with the edge of your qalam. That is your ayn. Same proportion as you had previously. 3 dots over here. It's all about the proportion. But you need to always look at how your letter actually looks. Don't be so stuck on the proportion if your letter is not looking nice and your letter is looking ugly. Now obviously the ayn on its own, when it's in the middle of a letter, will look like this. And look, I'm going up. Now I'm straightening up. Very, very curved movement. I'm going to go slightly ahead of where I was before. Overlap where I went. And make this curving motion downwards. That's it. Stop there. Then from there, I go straight down. And that is my ayn. Gap over here is 1 dot. From the khat kursi is 1 dot. From the top, as we've seen with all the types of ayns, is 3 dots. It's not a straight line, it's curving. So this small circle that I draw it indicates the curve in the letter. So it should be a slight curve in the letter, and there's a small area over here, and normally this area when connected to another letter is 3 dots. So this is the Ain. Very quickly, normally these letters take very long to write, but I'd love everyone to practice these 3 types and then you'll be able to master it. But be patient with it. It'll be very difficult at first, but keep on going and keep on persevering, and through that determination you'll be able to master the letter, and inshallah be able to master this style of calligraphy. Jazakallah.